I give the floor to the representative of Sierra Leone.
Thank you, Madam President. Let me thank Assistant Secretary General Khaled Khiari for his important briefing on the implementation of Security Council Resolution 2334 and Dr. Shira Efron of the Israel Policy Forum and Mr. Michael Levy for their perspectives on the situation in the occupied Palestinian territory. We acknowledge the Secretary General's report and regret that this reporting period is marked by continued hostilities between Israel and Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups in the Gaza Strip. This contravenes the provisions of Resolution 2334 that calls for immediate steps to prevent all acts of violence against civilians, including acts of terror as well as acts of destruction. As reported by OCHA, an estimated 26,000 of the wounded civilians in the Gaza Strip have suffered injuries that could lead to lifetime deformity and disability, especially among children. We note with concern the highest number of child amputees per capita in the world has been recorded in the Gaza Strip. In the same vein, we also recall that Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups have continued to hold the remaining hostages since 7th October 2023 without granting the necessary access or providing updates on their well-being. In Resolution 2334, Israel, the occupying power, is reminded of its legal obligations and responsibilities under the Fourth Geneva Convention of 1949 relative to the protection of civilian persons in time of war. However, the past 14 months in the Gaza Strip have presented compelling evidence that does not align with the provisions of the resolution. This is reflected in the current estimated death toll in the range of over 45,000 and the wounded at 106,000, with 70% of such casualties being women and children. The civilian population has been trapped in a deep humanitarian crisis at a scale and magnitude far beyond human comprehension. These statistics question our conscience and collective responsibility to advance durable peace and to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war as stipulated in the United Nations Charter. As families and communities are displaced due to the widespread destruction of their homes and critical infrastructure, the already vulnerable population in the north and elsewhere in Gaza are exposed to extreme weather conditions during this winter. What the Palestinians are currently experiencing represents a disruption of their livelihoods, social networks, and overall well-being. The alarming rate of violence in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, in the context of Israel operations, armed exchanges between Palestinians, including armed groups, Israeli security forces, and settlers, often leading to restrictions, forced displacement, and demolition, contravenes resolutions of this Council and the International Court of Justice Advisory Opinion of 19 July 2024. All of these actions on the ground seem to be counterproductive to the search for lasting peace in the Middle East. We are encouraged, however, by the increased political momentum in support of addressing some of the critical issues surrounding the Middle East peace process and the implementation of Resolution 2334. With that in mind, Sierra Leone welcomes the observations as highlighted in the Secretary General's report and would like to reiterate the following. First, we condemn the continuous killing and injury of civilians and the never-ending cycle of violence. To end this situation, we demand for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire, respect for international humanitarian law, and implementation of Security Council and General Assembly resolutions, including the most recent General Assembly resolution ES 10/33. We also call for the unconditional release of all hostages held by Hamas. We further reiterate our support for UNRWA and its pivotal role in supporting the Palestinians. We express concern that any action to undermine its operations will be detrimental for Palestinian refugees in particular, not only in Gaza, but across other areas of operations. We welcome the various initiatives by the international community, including diplomatic efforts by Egypt, Qatar, and the United States, as well as the launch of the Global Alliance for the Implementation of the Two-State Solution. Sierra Leone recalls the ICJ advisory opinion of 19 July 2024 and calls on Israel to immediately and completely stop all settlement activities in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem, as they present an obstacle to peace and threaten the physical viability and delivery of a two-state solution. We further caution against any action that may threaten the economic, political, and administrative status of Palestine. We reject the escalation of violence in the occupied West Bank and call on Israelis and Palestinians to desist from all acts of incitement, inflammatory language, and provocations that may fuel tensions. In closing, Madam President, we urge the parties to recommit to a constructive dialogue embedded in the principle of the two-state solution while addressing the legitimate aspirations and concerns of both sides. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Sierra Leone for their statement, and I now give the floor